So we talked a little bit about outfitting. What have your experiences been like moving to outfitting? It's people warn about making your profession out of something that you love to do. How's that been?
You know, the hound hunting side of it is pretty expensive, obviously. I mean, we all know that. Dog feed, collars, and beating the crap out of your trucks. And, I mean, always something new, vet bills or whatever, you know. Yeah, I guess if a man kept back to half a dozen dogs, it wouldn't be too bad to do it and not make any money on the side. But I just like raising dogs too much, I guess. Man needs some sort of income coming in to help supplement all them dogs. But as far as it goes back to what you asked me a minute ago, I guess, on the hunters. Them guys that don't put forth the effort, that makes it kind of tough to get up every morning and go give 110% effort. I mean, everybody has a bad day, you know. You just want to stay in bed, maybe a little rainy and drizzly, and you know you're not going to have a very good day. But when there's a paid client camp, you still got to get up and go. But I never. Yeah, it's a job, and it's in the back of my mind as a job, but I guess I've never, I love it so much.
You're still enjoying it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's something that it's a hard relationship, I think, for non-outfitters, non-guides with outfitting, where you're sort of like, well, these are guys who are hunting the hardest, and so they're the most competition, and they're also oftentimes killing a lot, but they also got the best dogs usually because they're hunting the hardest.
Right.
And they've got so many dogs that they're able to properly select and have, very solid breeding programs. And I love, listening to houndsmanure outfitters because oftentimes they just have so much knowledge compared to your weekend hunter.
Well, I'll disagree with that a little bit. I mean, I know some guys that don't guide, don't outfit, that are still pretty knowledgeable. Just because we're outfitters don't make we're the smartest ones on the mountain.
Oh no, the outfitter near me, I would say that he's a deer hunter with a pack of dogs. He bought that pack of dogs, and it didn't seem like he knew really too much about them. But
yeah.
So it's not a rule for sure.
I think any outfitter that just wants to do it all on his own and not have good help, they're not going to make it as far as the outfitters that have good help. And we wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't have some of the best guides in the country. I mean, we had probably the best year. Well, we had the best year I've ever had last year on bear hunting. It wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the help we get. And I don't know, I like to think we pay decent. Obviously, everybody wants to pay as much as possible, but at the end of the day, our insurance costs us so much. Food to feed the hunters costs us so much. Permits are costing us so much. And at the end of the year, we got to pay 3% of our gross to the Forest Service and 3% of our gross to BLM. So we've got a lot of overhead. So we pay as much as we can to still be able to stay in business. But I think any outfitters that don't have or don't pay their guides what need to be paid, you're not going to be as successful as the outfitters that do.
Could you support yourself just doing the hound hunting?
I could. We're to the point now, I think I could. And we're working on that.
Would you like to do that?
I do. That's the end goal. I think once that 2-year-old of mine gets a little older to where he can go with me every day and not be a nuisance, and maybe that wasn't the right word for that. But,
I think a nuisance sounds right.
Yeah. I mean, 2-year-olds, and he's pretty well housebroke now, but
we're talking about a 2-year-old child, not a 2-year-old dog.
2-year-old dog. Or
the 2-year-old dog would be fine.
And he's pretty well potty trained, but long days in trucks are tough on 2-year-olds. Another couple of years to work, he's going to be able to go every day. That'll make a little bit more of a difference, I think. That's the end goal, is to where all I'm doing is hunting.
What do you think the impact of outfitting is in hound hunting and game management in New Mexico?
I think for those of us that do everything by the book and are legal about it, I think it's a good thing.
are the good things that it provides? Because I think that hunters know this, but non-hunters are not so familiar with what outfitting provides for game management and also sort of for the community.
Well, as far as the community goes, you know, New Mexico's really only got three things going for them. Oil and gas is the big one, obviously. Tourism, and other than that, now that the mines are shut down, I think the outfitting, you know, I get hunters that come through, and say we're camped in Cuba, you know, they stop there in that little town of Cuba, fill up with gas, and buy some last minute supplies, some Coke, and whatever, you know, they're in town or stop and eat at the restaurant before they come on into camp. That does that community more good than you know.
Yep.
Yeah, they do get a little bit of tourist stuff, but for the most part, there ain't much there. As far as game management goes, you know, and I'm not saying I agree with everything that the game and fish biologists say, but they set quotas for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
Do I think sometimes the quotas are too high? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
More so on the lion side in places. And then I think in other places the lion quotas are too low.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think them guys spend enough time in the field
Mm-hmm.
is the biggest problem. But
do you feel like they take input from hound hunters?
no,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. They should,
Mm-hmm.
and we voice our concerns, but they don't listen.
Yeah.
You know, Utah's a prime example of that.
Yeah, because we're only a stone's throw from Colorado here, where there's not much of a hound hunting. So there's not much of a season for anything anymore.
Yeah, the lion quota in Colorado's been changed. They combined a bunch of units, and those quotas get met so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as the bear goes, there is no bear hunting with hounds unless you work for the state.
How do you remain in touch with game and fish here in a useful way as a hound hunter, and what's to stop, because New Mexico is a blue state for the most part, what's to stop New Mexico going the same way as Colorado as far as the hound hunting? What are some sort of proactive things that hound hunters can do to get engaged here?
You know, my biggest thing is build a relationship with some of these game wardens.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a pretty good relationship with a couple of these guys. They have a it's called New Mexico Game and Outfitter Council, I think is what it's called, and we're part of that. And they go to bat for us a little bit more. It
Mm-hmm.
costs us a little money every year.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't call it a union because that ain't the right word, but
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of like a union.
Yep. It's like a lobbying organization.
Yes, exactly right. That's exactly what it is. And they seem to get farther than we do.
You think so?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because they're doing it professionally, and they sort of are strategizing and approaching it tactically.
Yeah, and that's probably not one thing I'm very good at.
Yeah, most town hunters aren't.
I'm going to tell you what I think,
Yeah.
whether it's politically correct or not. You can't go to them game committee meetings and be like that because you're just going to get thrown out. But,
Yeah.
I think that probably helps us more than anything is that council, and not just the hound hunting, but the outfitting in general.
Yeah. Because that's I would say the fourth thing that New Mexico has is sort of hippie chicks with hairy armpits, and an amazing thing about New Mexico is that it's full of, you know, turquoise wearing Santa Fe people and also hound hunters, and it's still a great place to hound hunt for now, and hopefully for the future. So unlike Colorado, there's something that's happened here which has still kept it going.
Yeah, and obviously it could change at any minute. I mean, look at Utah, you know, that lion deal got passed up there in a hurry, but sorry. There is a New Mexico Houndsman Association, but it's more coon hunter based down in the southern part of the state than it is the big game side of it. And maybe I should do something about it, I guess, but one of them deals you wish there was a little bit more involved on the big game side for the Houndsman Association, like Utah's got a really good Houndsman Association.
That's the thing, right? Utah has maybe one of the strongest houndsman associations out west, and yet they were steamrolled, and it seems like Utah Fish and Game or whatever is there wasn't interested in their opinions on it, and it didn't seem to matter much. I think that in all the states where we still do, I guess they lost it on the other side, which is a complete opening up of line hunting to the point where you're wondering how's this going to go in the future. But in whichever direction it's going, we need to be proactive because things are coming at you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing, once they get it taken away, you'll never get it changed again.
Yeah.
I mean, Colorado's a prime example of that. They'll never, as bad as everybody wants it, they'll never have bear hunting with hounds in Colorado again. And it's a shame.
Yeah, I think once the culture dies, the thing, even if they, so there's no push to bring it back legally, because after you've got, 1 or 2 generations out of the thing, who's going to get back into,
Exactly.
I'm going to have 20 dogs and I've never done this before. I've got no role models,
Right.
That's a hard thing to do.
Yep, no, I agree 100%.
Yeah. So and so we're sort of talking about the hound hunting industry in New Mexico, the outfitting industry as far as hound hunting goes. It's different here as far as I understand. In Idaho, where I recently lived, you get a permit for a special area. This is your area. You can guide hunts in here. It's statewide, right?
Yeah, and I wish it was more like Idaho.
Mm-hmm.
And to touch base on that a little more, Idaho, each outfitter is designated an area, and they may overlap a little,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not going to overlap enough where you got to worry about each other a whole lot. Them guys up there getting up at 5:30 and drinking a pot of coffee and leaving their house at 6:30
Mm-hmm.
to go lion hunting versus
Yeah.
here we're leaving at 9 or 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
I wish they would do that, and it puts a little more pressure on the outfitters to manage their game a little better.
That's what I think.
Instead of killing these 150-pound sows or 125-pound sow bears, or these 90-pound female lion, if you end up killing all your sows and female lion, you're not going to have nothing coming back.
Yeah.
And it puts a little more pressure on your outfitters to manage their game a little better. Versus here, if a lot of these guys, if it climbs, it dies. And that's the wrong mentality to have.
Yeah. It does seem like the Idaho system makes sense to me, and sort of you're going to take care of your spot in your game, and that's the most natural way to relate to country and to game, I think.
Yep.
When you start to get this feel for competition, the tragedy, the commons happens where if I don't kill it, Bob next week's going to kill it, and that's where things begin to spiral. There's a feeling amongst some hound hunters that if we change anything in a sort of more restrictive or different way, we're going to lose everything. And
Right.
I don't think that's right. I think we can make positive changes without, it being a slippery slope to no hunting whatsoever.
I agree. But I think there's a fine line before you do go over that slippery slope.
It is. It's hard.
Yep. And so another thing Idaho's got going is they actually have a guide and outfitter council that works with Game and Fish.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were to go up there and pull an outfitter license, I've got to go sit before the council. I've heard it's like being interrogated at Gitmo. It's pretty intense.
Really?
Yes, yeah. That's what I've been told.
Okay.
And I think that would benefit a lot. They look at your record, and if you've got any game violations, they question you. And if you've got any major ones, then I've been told you can just forget it.
Mm-hmm.
Versus here, we're on a point system. It's a 20-point system. Say you get a game violation, it may be, and they determine what the point is, how many points that violation's worth. But, in 3 years, if you lose your license in 3 years, you could go reapply and get a new license, outfitter license here.
Mm-hmm.
Versus up there, you sit down in front of the council. If the council deems you're not worthy to have an outfitter license, you're just not going to get one.
Yep. But to put some context for that, I've met a few outfitters down here who have all been some of the best, most ethical, straightest guys I've met, and I know some in Idaho who are not. So it's not hard and fast, but maybe these are good things that could be integrated here too.
Yeah, and we try to do everything by the book. And I know a lot of guys that do, but then there's always some little, so that you have a slip up or whatever that you miss. and it still costs you some points or whatever. But I mean, if you're in the woods enough, you're gonna have a game violation eventually, whether you mean to or not. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah, but I think if you abide by the spirit of the law, none of us are going to get the letter of the law, because the number of pages and specific things that they've got going on are pretty intense. They can always book you for something.
Always.
But I think that if you abide by the spirit of the law and you have sort of a solid ethical code motivating what you do, it's going to be a minor infraction.
Yeah.
And for the book, I don't know, you probably have far more interactions with game and fish than I do, but I've found that for the most part they seem okay.
For the most part.
Yeah, they're cops.
There's always a bad apple in every bunch.
They're cops in different uniforms, and it's good to remember that. But they're providing a service,
They've got a job to do just like we do,
Yeah.
or anybody else,
Yeah.
And I think they're trained to look for oddities, and they're going to pick up on them pretty quick.
What's your ethos, your ethical system that you bring to hound hunting, and then how does that apply in outfitting? For instance, you mentioned, guys will, if it climbs, it dies. How do you navigate that with your clients?
We've killed one female lion in the last 3 years, and she was old. Didn't have any top teeth. Bottom teeth were pretty worn down, but her top teeth were dang near gone. She was down there in that desert. She had just killed a deer. We ran her off a kill, but she was pretty scrawny looking. I don't know how much longer she had made it. And I'm not saying that's an excuse to kill a female.
I think it's fine to kill a female in certain circumstances.
Yeah, and there's a reason Game and Fish put a quota on females.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely need to kill some every now and again. But we try not to kill as many as we can on the female side. We got target toms, On the bear side, you can tell if it's a mature bear or not. If it's a good mature 3 or 4 year old bear that's over 200 pounds, I think that's fair game. Honestly, we're still targeting the bigger bear, but.
What you hear is that sort of clients are coming from states where they don't see a lot of bears or lions, and they see a lion in a tree and they go, well, is that a big lion? And some outfitters go, and it's a 90-pound female, and they go, yeah, sure, why not? Have you found, what level of knowledge do your clients usually bring to the game?
Very little. Every now and again you'll get a guy. I've got a hunter that's hunted lion for years. He just likes hunting with dogs.
Yeah.
I don't know how many lions he's killed. He's just started hunting with us this year. He killed a good tom earlier in the year. But he hunted with Van for years and years and years. I think he's actually on a hunt this week in Arizona with another outfitter down there. But I don't know how many he's killed, but he just loves it.
You mean he's killing a lot, or he's killing a few?
No, he's killed quite a few good toms. I don't think he's ever killed a female.
Oh, okay. You're saying he's sort of the exception to the rule, and that he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he knows the difference between a good lion and just a lion.
Yeah.
And same deal. You'll get a bear hunter that's hunted bear all over that knows the difference between a good bear and a bad bear. But 90% of your hunters don't know the difference.
Yep.
And going back to the outfitters that just let them shoot whatever. From my experience, most of your outfitters are going to add 20 pounds to everything, every lion they kill. And I'll admit, I did the same thing. I think a lot of the time is they just don't know any different.
Yeah, it's very hard. I've just been getting into the sport, not the sport really, I don't know what it's called, life, over the last couple of years, but it's very hard at first until you see quite a lot of animals to judge the bears. I'd be going out to my friends who know a lot more than me, and I'd say, oh, that looks like a big bear, how much is that? And I'm thinking it's 350, and they go, oh, it's probably like 200, 220. And that's realistic, and it takes a little while to build up that eye. I think you hear a lot about, 200-pound lions and 500-pound bears, and they're out there, but they're hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you what changed my opinion on it, and I'm going to bring them up again. Cleve and Becky Dwyer, they're Bull Creek Outfitters, and Cleve's brother Monty, Nevada makes you pack them lion out whole.
Yep.
To get them sealed with Game and Fish, and then Game and Fish weigh them. And, we send each other pictures back and forth, and we're pretty good friends. He'll send me a picture of a tom, and it's like, God, that's a 200-pound Tom all day long, you know, text him one down, I'm like, oh, 162 pounds. It's like, what?
Yeah.
There's no way. You know, and send the deal, you know, this hunter's 6'2", 240 pounds, you know, and he's holding this lion, just dwarfs him, you know, and well, that's a 158-pound lion. And it's like, what in the world? So I actually started carrying a little scale, and we don't weigh everything, but we'll weigh a couple a year just to see. And it kind of humbled me on that.
Yeah.
And like I say, I don't think, and I'm sure there are outfitters out there that are lying to their clients for lack of a better term, but I just think they don't know any better, because New Mexico doesn't require us to pack these things out whole.
I used to lift weights, and like, I think I know what a weight feels like from a bar.
Yeah.
But when you pick up a bear, I've never picked up a bear, but when you pick up a lion, it's a hell of a lot harder because it's a limp weight, and I think you could easily say, oh, this is 200 pounds when it might be a 130-pound lion.
Yeah.
Because a limp weight is different.
I think, and obviously there's going to be an exception every now and again. I heard about a lion. I hadn't seen any pictures or nothing, but somebody was telling me about a lion killed in Colorado the other day that was like 218 or something. So obviously there's an exception to everything. There's going to be a freak of nature here and there,
but that's eating city dogs, you know. It's getting
well,
fat.
maybe that's what it is, but I think if you want to kill 200-pound lions, you need to go to British Columbia. I think that's about the only place they are consistently exist.
Yeah, that's the rule, right? As you get farther from the equator in an animal's given species, it gets bigger body mass. In terms of the animals that you have weighed, what do you think your average mature boar or tom is weighing?
I think if you're not killing a 140-pound tom, you're screwing up.
And that's pounds is mature tom.
I think so. Oh well, I'd even say 130-pound tom's mature tom. But most of your outfitters are going to say that 130-pound tom's a 150-pound tom. You know, 140-pound tom's 160-pound tom, bigger. You know, that's just the way it is. As far as the bears go, you know, we try not to kill anything under 250. Obviously, there's exceptions to that. You know, last day of a hunt, you catch a 200-pound boar, and the hunter's good with it. You let him kill it. I mean, it's still a mature bear.
Do you think hound hunters have trouble identifying boars versus sows?
I think some do, and I'm guilty of it at times. You know, the last bear we killed this year, big old bear in a tree, way over 300-pound bear, just Gobby-Fat. Thought, yeah, that's a boar all day long. Shoot it, hits the ground, it's a sow. I mean, mistakes happen for sure. And especially, I think more so when them bear are fat, when them acorns like they were this year. I mean, these bear this past fall were Gobby-Fat. And that fat goes to rolling up on them everywhere, and you know, it builds up and under their head. It gets between their skull and their face, makes their heads look bigger. I mean, it's gonna happen. You're not gonna get them all right.
Yeah, but I also don't think that there's anything wrong with necessarily killing a mature sow, an old sow, or a female lion. You know, to be binary in either direction would be foolish, because there's circumstances where it makes sense.
Well, like I say, Game and Fish put a quote on them for a reason.
It can be hard to tell. I'm new to it, but the only way I can tell is by watching them piss sometimes. But I think that's something we can do as hound hunters to get out to the non-hunting public, is talk about how ethical that is, that we can spend 30, 40 minutes under a tree. Yeah, the bear is stressed, but you're waiting for it to pee, because you're, unlike a spot, nothing against spot and stock hunting or any other type of hunting, but unlike those types of hunting, you can be pretty damn sure of what that is in the tree.
You got to ground check them on spot and stalk to figure out what they are.
Yeah.
You know, these guys calling in lions or glassing lions across the rim and shooting them from long range. Don't get me wrong, I like long range shooting. I enjoy that myself, but you can't look at a lion through a spot and scope at 500 or 600 yards and tell what it is.
Yep.
You just ain't gonna do it.
Yep.
Versus like you say, you know, we walk up to a tree and we can walk around that tree and 9 out of 10 times we're gonna be able to tell what it is. You're 100% gonna be able to tell if that line's wet. You know, if she's wet, it's gonna show like a sore thumb.
The black circles on her
where she's been nursing.
Yeah, the first line I caught this winter, which was the first line I felt like my dogs did the work properly, My dogs treed, and then I was hiking up in the deep snow. They all went quiet, and the lion just pads past me like 30, 40 yards away, and it just looked at me and paused real considerate, and then took the dogs to another tree. And I took a picture of her in the tree. I looked back at it later, and I realized she was nursing. And my friends with more experience were telling, oh, she probably left her kittens in that tree. But once you know what to look for, it's super obvious. And I would have noticed if I thought about killing her at the tree, but it's definitely something that it's so invaluable to have a mentor, guys you can talk to and teach you this stuff, because it's just that little bit of information can help you so much.
It will. And even you know, they teach you about the black spot for the toms. You know, sometimes a female will have a black spot there that's just damp from pee or whatever. That can be confusing at times, but like I say, if she's wet, it's going to show like a sore thumb.